Episode number 846, Cracking the Y Code.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
Well, I'm physically in Austin, Texas this week, my home, but I'm all over the world because this is International Networking Week in 2024. So I'm doing events all over the world.
Oh, great. And who do you have as a guest today?
I have a guest. I was on his podcast and I've invited him to be on the BNI podcast. And his name is Dr. Gary Sanchez. He's an international speaker, author, dentist, and inventor. He's known as Dr. Y, uppercase W-H-Y, for discovering the 9 Whys and developing the Y discovery tool. He's an author of the book, The Power of the 9 Whys and How People and Teams Get Clear, Stand Out, and Play Bigger. He earned his degree in biology from the University of Colorado in Boulder and his DDS, his dental degree, from University of Southern California. We have something in common, Dr. Sanchez. Your favorite saying is there's always a better way. Welcome to the BNI podcast, Gary.
Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's good to have you here. And let's jump right in. Talk to me about cracking the Y code. What does that mean? And how would my BNI members benefit from understanding this?
Great question. Well, so many of today's gurus, well, forever actually, people have been talking about this concept of why. Why do I do what I do? Why am I here? You've heard it from Mark Twain that said the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. And most recently, Simon Sinek has talked quite a bit about it. But actually helping you discover your why is when it has value for you. And that's kind of my story. As I was a dentist, like you mentioned, from USC, and the advice that I was given was build a great product and people will come. So I spent 20 years building a great dental practice, only to still blend in with everybody else that said, yeah, I'm a dentist too. And that's when I heard about the concept of why, saw Simon Sinek's TED Talk like 61 million other people, read his book multiple times and said, that's what I'm missing. I have a great what, but I don't know my why. So I became obsessed with that, called Simon. He and I spent about 8 months together going back through my life looking for clues, trying to figure it out. And when I finally figured out that my why is to find a better way and then share it, that's when my life started to make a lot of sense to me. And so in my own dental practice, we stopped talking about what we do, crowns, bridges, fillings, and we started talking about why we do what we do and what we believe. And that's when my practice really took off. You know, when you talk about what you do, you blend in with everybody else who does what you do. When you talk about why you do what you do, you stand out from everyone else that does what you do. But in order to do that, you need to know what your why is. And since my why is to find a better way and share it, I went back and figured out what Simon was trying to do, and I made it better. And I started to help anybody that would let me. And I helped thousands of people. And in doing so, I started to see patterns and trends and similarities and figured out there's only 9 different whys. And that was
let's talk about that. The Power of 9 Whys. You did a book on that. So talk to us about the 9 Whys, or some of them at least.
Yeah. So like in your case, your why is to contribute to a greater cause, right? Add value, have an impact in the lives of others. So you use your time, your money, your energy, your connections to push other people forward. And oftentimes,
can I just add to that? I did a podcast with you, and I'll make sure that link goes up for anybody who wants to see my why on Gary's podcast.
Yeah. And so one of the great things about that is, once I figured out there was 9 whys, I figured out that one of them is your why, one of them is your how, and one of them is your what. And so your message becomes even clearer when you know all 3. So can I use you as the example?
Of course you can.
Okay. So if all you saw was Ivan's picture, and you tried to figure out, now who is this guy? And you'd look at his hairstyle and his facial hair, and if he had any jewelry and what he's wearing and his posture and glasses and things, and you try to figure out who he is. So imagine you're at a networking event and you see him. You go, oh, let's go talk to him, and you try to figure out who he is, but you don't really know. So you create a narrative around what you think, and then that's who he becomes. But if I were to tell you that Ivan's why is to contribute to a greater cause, like we mentioned, have an impact in the lives of others. How he does that is by simplifying things, making them easier to do. And ultimately, what he brings is the right way to get results, the structure, the processes, the systems around getting predictable results. Now you know so much more about him. And we could dive into that if you want on the best way to connect with you or somebody that has your why, how, and what. We call that your why operating system, or YOS. And so that's the next evolution of why. So we cracked the why code. We figured out that there's only 9 whys, but then we took it even deeper by creating your why operating system, your YOS, which is your why, your how, your what, and then developing your message around that. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but give me some more than 9. There's several there that you gave me, but what are some more than 9?
Okay, so the first one is contribute to a greater cause, add value, have an impact in the lives of others. The second one is trust, to create relationships based upon trust, to be the trusted source. The third one is make sense, to make sense of the complex and challenging. They're great problem solvers. The fourth one is my why, which is to find a better way and share it. The fifth one is right way, to do things the right way in order to get predictable results. The sixth why is challenge, to challenge the status quo and think differently. The seventh why is mastery, to seek mastery and understanding. The eighth why is clarify, to make things clear, crystal clear and understandable. And the last one is simplify, to decrease complexity and make easier to do, easier to understand. So those are the 9 whys in a nutshell.
Everybody has at least one of those themes as their why. Is that what you're saying?
Everybody has all of them, but one of them is more dominant than the rest. And that's the one that becomes your why. Mm-hmm. The second most important one to you is your how, and the third most is your what. Mm-hmm. But the YOS, so what we haven't talked about yet, Ivan, is that after doing this with many, many thousands of people, I got a lot of data. And with that data, I was able to develop the algorithm and write the software where you can now discover your YOS in about 8 minutes online, which is what you went through. But it actually goes in all 9 levels deep. So it gives you quite a bit of information on yourself.
And so that's the YOS that you were talking about.
The Y operating system. That's the basis of your messaging. So if the question becomes, why should I choose you over everybody else who does what you do? It all goes back to your why, your how, and your what. And that's why it's so critical for you to know it. Once you know your YOS, then you'll see clearly, are you on the right track? Are you living your passion?
Yeah.
Are you going in the right direction? And then you can build your messaging, marketing, and branding all based on your YOS so that you stand out from everybody else who does what you do.
So how do you use the YOS to network? Because as you know, BNI is a networking organization, so that's an important factor for my members.
Great question. So first of all, it's critical for you to know in terms of messaging yourself, like we just talked about. So you know who you are and you're able to message it. And it'll answer the question, why should somebody choose you? But the second thing is when you know the YOS of your prospects or your clients or the people, the other members in your BNI group, you know how to connect with them. So Tony Alessandra talks about the platinum rule, right? We all know the golden rule, treat others the way we want to be treated, but what if they don't want to be treated the way you want to be treated? So then you use the platinum rule, which is treat others the way they want to be treated. Well, that's how you do that, is by knowing their why operating system. So you'll know the words that they need to hear in order to make a decision. You'll know how to connect with them on a much deeper level. so that you get to speak to them in the way they want to be spoken to. And it helps you move people forward. The other thing that it does, Ivan, is it allows other people to know how to talk about you. So what's great about referring other people is when you know what to say about them. Instead of, oh yeah, they're a great guy, they do a great job with their business, they're really good at what they do. Now you'll be able to talk about somebody in a way that's authentic to who they are and why they stand out from the others that do what they do. So it's a perfect tool to utilize when networking. It's also a perfect tool to use when prospecting, because it only takes 8 minutes. So you can have your clients, I don't really meet with anybody until I know their YOS, because what are we going to talk about, right? How are your kids or things like that? Once you know their YOS, you'll know exactly how to connect with them in a way that they want to be connected to.
So it improves your personal messaging and allows connections to take place faster. Yeah.
You got it. Better connections faster.
Well, Gary, first of all, thanks for having me on your podcast. It was a pleasure having you on the BNI podcast. How can people get more information about what you do?
Go to whyinstitute.com. If you want to discover your YOS, just go to whyinstitute.com, whyinstitute.com, and then click on the tab that says Discover My YOS. And it's take you about 8 minutes, but it'll find your why, your how, your what, and create your personal message for you. I think you'll find it fascinating. It really helps you answer the question, why should I choose you?
Well, I found it fascinating, and I appreciate you being on BNI Podcast today, Gary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate it.
All right. Back to you, Priscilla.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for the great information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioprograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioprograms.com and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.